Hi, this is Nahid. Welcome to our introduction to needs. As we go through this video series, I'm going to keep bringing you back to the core guiding question, which is if we're smart and capable and we have the freedom to create any life we want for ourselves, then why are so many people stuck and unhappy? Well, there must be something in the way. And that has brought me to my personal mission to clear the path to success for as many people as possible. And in order to do that, I need to understand what actually gets in the way of success. And to do that, I created an obstacles pyramid, which serves as the framework for this video series. So through the series, we've been working our way down the obstacles pyramid, and we are now at the deeper levels of the pyramid, starting with the needs level. The needs level of the pyramid is incredibly important because needs will run your life. And often you are not aware at all that you have an issue or an obstacle at the needs level. Most of this is completely subconscious. So let's talk about what in the world I mean when I'm talking about needs. So your needs are basically needs. They're what you need to survive. And the thing to know about them is they include everything that you need to survive in this world, including air, water, nutrition, safety, community, agency. Needs are pre-verbal. In other words, as soon as you were born into this world, you were automatically scanning your environment to understand how to get your needs met. So your purpose as a physiological being is to figure out what you need to survive and how to get those needs met. With it being pre-verbal, we have to suppose that being able to survive doesn't depend on language. So when it comes to your needs, you're being communicated to through your body and through emotions in your body. So when all of our needs are met, we tend to feel good. We tend to have a sense of well-being. We tend to have a sense of happiness, if not contentment. And when our needs are not met, we're not feeling good at some level. Unmet needs are literal threats to our survival. And so if you ignore them over time, they drive increasing stress. So just to give you a really simple example, let's say you're driving somewhere and it's a long distance and you start having to go to the bathroom. Well, in the beginning, you may be looking for a rest area or a place to stop, but it may be in the back of your mind. But as you continue to drive and your bladder gets more and more full, you get more and more stressed, more attention gets paid to your bladder, and you start feeling a higher sense of urgency to find some way to relieve yourself. Now, I don't know if that's the most appropriate example to use in this video, but I think it's one that anyone can relate to. But the same happens with hunger and thirst and air. It also happens in relationships. That's why the feeling of loneliness can be so painful if you've been lonely for a long time. Okay, I like to use Maslow's hierarchy as a needs model. First of all, it's been around for a really long time. Second of all, it makes a lot of sense. So there's 5 levels of needs in this pyramid, and they're prioritized in the pyramid by how urgent they are when they're unmet. So physiological needs correspond to physiological things like air and water, being at the right body temperature, for example. Safety and shelter means that, you feel relatively safe. You don't feel like you're at war or someone's pointing a gun at your head. Love and belonging means that you have at least a few other people you can lean on. As humans, we need other humans to survive. Self-esteem is really about agency, I would say. So I may be defining this a little bit differently from some of you who look at self-esteem more as self-worth. And then self-actualization is this desire to be creative and to really express yourself at the highest level. The way the pyramid is arranged, the needs at the bottom take precedence over the needs at the top. So you could survive being alone for a period of time, but you cannot survive without air for that same period of time, right? You can only survive maybe a minute or two without air. You can survive maybe a day or two without water. You can survive maybe a week or two without food. When it comes to living in a war zone, you're only going to be thinking about survival. You're not going to be thinking about, where your boyfriend is at the time, right? But if all your physiological needs are met, you're not sick, you're not ill, and you don't necessarily feel that you're in an unsafe situation at the time, then you're starting to think about the other people in your life, and you're starting to think about the things that you want to do in life, that sort of thing. So where you're going to see the needs that are relevant to our obstacles pyramid are right here in the box. Sort of all of the love and belonging needs, part of the safety shelter needs, and part of the self-esteem needs. If you have unmet needs at the lowest levels of the pyramid, you're not thinking about building a life for yourself, creating your best life. You're just thinking about living. And at the top, if you have unmet needs in the area of self-actualization, you're actually being driven by the boredom or the desires there. So the emotions that drive you at that level, you're being driven to create a life that lines more up with your own value system. So the needs that are unmet that could get in your way are in this middle area right here. So how does this all work? Remember, it's an emotional communication system. So you're tapping into your emotional wisdom. And some of us are more aware of how our emotions drive us than others. Some of us numb out, and so we don't even feel our own emotions. But this is in general how it would happen. As soon as the body senses a threat, we have a feeling, and it's a feeling of agitation. Whatever feeling that you're having, you are prompted at an emotional level to start trying to make yourself feel better in some way. Every time we start feeling better, we get a hit of dopamine in our brain. What that hit of dopamine tells us is whatever you just did got us feeling a little bit better. So we want to do more of that. And we tend to keep up those behaviors until we no longer feel agitated. That cycle is what runs us. And it runs us whether we're aware of it or not. So it's actually better to be aware of it than to not be aware of it. And that's a lot of what we teach when we get to the needs level. The thing to understand is that every time you feel any kind of stress or agitation, you have an unmet need. Your body is signaling you that you need something. So you've got a headache, or you're feeling lonely, or you're feeling upset, or you're reacting to somebody, you're triggered in some way. We don't generally think about, oh, I have an unmet need. We tend to think, oh, the situation needs to change in this way, or something like that. So we've gotten so disconnected from what our body's trying to tell us that often we misinterpret the signal. So it's just important to start thinking in this way. Anytime I have any kind of negative emotional experience, there's something I need. So when our needs are met, we feel this wonderful sense of well-being. And how does that help us? Well, from this peaceful place, we tend to feel very confident. We tend to have energy, and we have motivation, and we have a lot more courage. And so we tend to lean into challenges. So we're in a much better place to do the courageous things that we need to do to create the life that we want for ourselves. So you're going to be at your most effective when all of your needs are met. When we have unmet needs, we feel drained and stressed and overwhelmed, and it just takes everything we have just to survive. So if you're going through your day just trying to survive every day, I think one thing that should be said is that it's pretty normal, unfortunately. Most of us are fairly stressed, and we're just trying to get through our days. That is really the reason why so many people don't create the life that they need for themselves or they want for themselves. So when we go back to my original core question of why is it that when we have the freedom to build any life we want for ourselves, why aren't we doing that? For a lot of people, it's because they're just trying to get through the day. They have so many unmet needs, and they're just trying to get those needs met throughout the day. And most of the time, they're making it through the day and they still don't have all their needs met at the end of the day. But if you can tap into that and really identify what your needs are that are unmet and do some proactive things to get those needs met, what you're going to free up for yourself is energy. What you're going to feel is a better sense of well-being. You're going to feel happier. You're going to feel more confident. And now you're going to have the energy and the courage and the confidence to make some changes in your life. Some needs never feel fully met. So some people spend their entire lives with unmet needs. And because they're spending their entire lives with unmet needs, they're never really 100% happy. So if you think about that and you think, well, what gets in the way of people's happiness? It's unmet needs. This is a big, important category of obstacles. So it's definitely something that's important to address. And I can tell you every single time that I have a client and we talk about their stuckness, usually I'm discovering unmet needs that are getting in the way, especially when they can't move forward, especially when they have motivation issues, especially when they've made attempts, but then they just keep falling back into the same old patterns. So working on your needs, even though it seems like it's foo-foo or unnecessary or impractical, it makes all the difference in the world if you want to change your life experience. If you like your life as it is, you don't have to go this deep. You can stay at the top 3 levels. But if you want to make big changes, needs are where you need to start. It's our responsibility to learn to identify our unmet needs and get them met. And in fact, it's been our responsibility since birth to identify our unmet needs and get them met. So we can't just sit back and say, since other people aren't giving me love or appreciation or respect, then I just have to live my life without it. We have to figure out a way to get those needs met. The good news is there are ways to get those needs met. And we'll talk about that in the next video.